Moving right along. The last two sections are application and parent-family community involvement. So with application, again, it's additional practice or skill learning. So what you do is you go back to your objective and you say, how else can I get children to recognize biases or to be empowered, right? Because that's really what the core of this lesson was. How can they recognize biases, and what do they do when they see biases or unfair treatment? So I said for my application, if biased images are seen, we will discuss them. If unbiased images are seen, we will discuss them too. So simply throughout the day, our school days together, if we see something that's biased or unbiased, we'll just address it, right? We'll start to get better at it. We'll practice at it. For older kids, homework can be an example of application. Additional play or practice. So maybe if you're teaching the children how to count, right, and you're using little counting bears or counting markers or something like that, you might leave them out in the Math Manipulative Center. So when the students are playing or have free choice time, they can go over and they can play with those materials and practice counting themselves. That can be application. So you look at your objective and I say you play the game. How many other ways can we work on this skill? Because we know even 1 week on this lesson plan on this topic isn't going to really be enough to carry it over to have the type of empowerment that I'm looking for. I want to teach them as children that they have a voice, so that way they grow into adults that also have a voice, right? So that has to kind of happen all the time. So whenever we see a biased, my kids will even say, if I say something, they'll say, oh, that's sexist or that's racist, or I'll tell them that's sexist or that's racist. We'll point it out, because anybody, actions anybody can be racist or anti-racist or sexist or anti-sexist at any point in time. It's not like you can always be one or the other, because we're people and we're fallible. We make mistakes. So what's important is to recognize that and then to own up to it and say, oh, you're right. I think that what I did say was racist or what I did say was sexist. I'm sorry. I'll have to think on that, and we move forward. So if we teach children how to have that type of dialogue early on, it can really have long-lasting effects, I hope. So that's the application. So for the parent, community, family involvement. So for here, we know it's important to have connections. It's not just what's going on in our classroom. What's going on in our classroom is part of a larger, ecosystem, so to speak, in the world. So you can decide how you want to do this and there's no one right way. It's what you prefer. It's what makes the most sense based on your lesson and the age of the kids. So for the parent, you can decide, all right, is there a way for me to bring parents into my lesson? Can they come into my classroom? Can they send something in to help me? Or is there something I can send out to the parent? So here I wrote a newsletter, which is a really common way to get information back and forth. But if you say, well, I'll write a newsletter or I'll send an email or I'll have a post, you need to actually compose what you would be in that email, that newsletter, or that post. If you say, well, I'm going to send the parents a letter asking them to send in catalogs, great, compose that letter. What does that look like? It doesn't have to just be the parent or the family, though. It can be the community. Is there somebody from the community that can come into my class that can help us with this topic? Is there a place in the community that we could go to get more information on this topic? And again, that's going to depend on your topic. So, for example, if you're teaching, it's going to be October, and October is Fire Safety Awareness Month. It would make a lot of sense if you're teaching about fire safety to either have a fireman come to your class and discuss, or take the children on a field trip, if possible, to a fire station. So that makes sense. You can also send letters home to families about what you're doing. So it just depends on what you want to do. But whatever goes home, or whatever letter is a form of communication, it has to be included here. So this is kind of important, I think, for them to, for families to know what we're talking about. So I have a little blurb here about what's going on with our lesson plan. And then here is where you would get your teacher to sign it if you're actually teaching it in the classroom. But for our class this semester, this is where we end. You don't have to worry about this reflection. Part 3 is only if you actually teach the lesson plan to children, and that is not us this semester.